Welcome back to the Deep Dive series, where each and every episode we take a look at a different NFL team and come up with a realistic outcome and prediction for them going into the 2022 NFL season. And we wrap this series up in a nice, pretty bow by doing a 2023 NFL mock draft based on those predictions. Real quick, hey, next week I'm hoping to start prospect rankings. We'll see how far I get. I'm wrapping up the offensive line, and there's some guys I want to go back, take a look at, because I think they could be included in that top 10. So we'll get there when we get there. But Philadelphia Eagles, man, I'm first going to say, you're going to love this position. You ain't going to like what I have to say about some of this. But hang with me, because we're going to have that nice, beautiful football discourse in the comment section below. By the way, what's crack-a-lackin'? It is your boy, Broshmo, just in case you did not know so. And we're going to go ahead and take a look, starting with the offense for the Philadelphia Eagles, as we do have Nick Sirianni and Shane, is this Steichen? I'm terrible with names. But they both did work with one another back when the Superchargers were in San Diego, and they reunited here in Philadelphia last season. And there were some growing pains. There sure was. But by the middle of the season, it really looked like the offense knew what they wanted to do. They were running like a well-oiled machine, and much of that had a lot to do with relying a bit more on the run game. They saw increases in 12 and 13 personnel, along with Jalen Hurts taking more snaps under center, and it really opened up their offense. They ran anything and everything. This team wasn't like you'll see teams typically be like this wide or outside zone blocking scheme, or maybe a little bit more gap heavy. They loved doing it all. They did a little bit of this, a little bit of that. They loved zone. They loved power. They loved split zone trap. RPOs, though they did cut down on the RPOs from what they were doing at the beginning of the year, because at the beginning of the year, man, I think Jalen Hurts, you really saw some questionable decision making when it came to those RPO plays, but starting to rely on those other rushing concepts really opened up Jalen Hurts, allowed him to be a bit more of a runner. It gave him more simplistic looks. Dogs are just fighting in the background, don't mind them. Gojo and Akila, man, I love them to death, but I don't think they could stand one another. But I will say that in terms of the play action, that rate stayed the same. Even they were passing less, but they still kept with the rate of play action because they wanted to utilize that, because play action typically helps a quarterback. Now, my biggest question when it comes to this offense is Jalen Hurts. Obviously, I think he's got a great offensive line. He's got wonderful weapons. They just added A.J. Brown this past season, and will Jalen Hurts be able to find open receivers? He has struggled not just with his ability to read the field, but with his accuracy. He is entirely the most accurate quarterback, or starting quarterback, in the NFL. But the dude stands a very good chance of exceeding expectations, as does this team. Let's go ahead, get into the offense a little bit. Hey, worst case scenario, Eagle fans, you still got Minshew Mania. I'm waiting for Minshew Mania 3 to come run wild on the NFL. I loved me some Gardner Minshew. I was a big Gardner Minshew supporter back when he was in Jacksonville. They also bring in Carson Strong, but he might be more of a practice squad guy. Well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens during training camp and whatnot. But he has a ton of weapons in the form of like a Dallas Goedert. Like I said, they did start to go more to those 13 and 12 personnel, which means more tight ends usually on the field, or multiple backs in the backfield. Jack Stoll saw a big role last year, I think, and he did well with that. They picked up Grant Calcaterra, who's going to probably be used as this like tight end 2, this kind of like step back tight end, or even a guy that they line up in the slot. And they have other options. I mean, JJ Arthur-Whiteside, shoot, the dude just became a tight end. We'll see if he even makes the team. And I'll be interested. Richard Rogers is a bit of a journey guy at this point, but he is a solid depth option there at tight end. So like I think they got options at tight end. Obviously, you got a beautiful duo of AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, one of the better duos, receiving duos in the NFL, and Quez Watkins really showed to be a very scary vertical threat last season. They still have Jalen Reagor. Maybe we get that Jalen Reagor breakout season. Probably not. But Zach Pascal is wonderful depth. Greg Ward has shown to be a very good slot receiver when need be, when called upon. They do have John Hightower, a guy that I really liked out of Boise State a few years ago that was more to this vertical threat. Outside of that, the rest of the guys, I wouldn't really say these are guys you need to know. Like Deion Kane is a guy that just really suffered, I think, from injuries. Former Clemson cat that has some upside to him. But Britton Covey, the Utah kick returner, that's what he is. He's a return man. Yeah, that's about it. Maybe a slot guy at best in the NFL, but I like what they got: Watkins, Pascal, Ward, and Reagor as depth. I like that. So again, this is a team with a lot of options, but the bread and butter is going to be, can this rushing game just get going? That'll kind of dictate how much they have to rely on Jalen Hurts, because let's be honest with Jalen Hurts, like when they started to focus more on being a more run-heavy team, they were very good when Jalen Hurts was throwing the ball less than 30 times a game. Every game that he had to throw the ball more than 30 times, they were taking the L usually, especially in the second half of the season. We saw that against the Bucks in the playoffs. We saw that in a game versus the Giants where I think he had like 3 picks. Do I hear 4? 3 picks. So there is that. But again, Miles Sanders, kind of hope that guy can stay healthy. Health has kind of been an issue for him, but he is a pretty darn good back when healthy and available. Kenneth Gainwell showed some bright spots last year. I think him and Boston Scott are actually a pretty good combination of backs, and they add Kennedy Brooks to come in and kind of be this. It's really a guy that's just really good at coming off contact, just moving after contact. And he's not going to be a guy utilized heavily in the running game. That's fine. I mention him because I think he's going to beat out Jason Huntley, who really is more of a special teamer. But I was a big fan of Kennedy Brooks. The guy knows how to shrug off contact. This offensive line is wonderful, even if it's not healthy, because you look at some of the options they have at depth. Solid. Like Andre Dillard did pretty good last year. I thought he was pretty solid. So they got obviously you got Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata as your starting tackles, but Andre Dillard's fine. Jack Driscoll, when called upon, when needed, looked good. I think there's an argument to be made that he could be your starting right guard next year. I was a big fan of him coming out of the draft, and I thought he looked very good last year. They drafted Cam Jurgens, the Beef Jurgens himself, in the second round, so he's probably going to be the heir apparent to Kelsey when he decides to move on, but a guy that honestly wouldn't mind if he had to come in and start. Josh Sills at Oklahoma State, I think there's a good shot he makes the team, just because he was like a 5th-year vet there at Oklahoma State, a guy that played in a very like a wide zone blocking scheme, but he looked very darn good in doing so. And now they kick him into guard, and I think that's a good move. Jack Anderson was a guy I was a big fan of out of Texas Tech. Who else we got going on here? They got my boy Jared Williams. He was like a 7-year player there out of Miami. That guy was in college football for a long time, but it's nice to see him on team. Probably doesn't make it. William Dunkel, I think that's the South Dakota State cat. Not positive, but I like guys like Jack Anderson, Cam Jurgens. You got Driscoll. You got Dillard. That's all your depth options, like solid. Again, this is a team that might have the best offensive line in football when was it Cimelo or Cimalo as your probably your worst offensive lineman. He's an average starter. That's fine. That's your worst offensive lineman. Sign me up for that. I'm just sitting here saying I think Jack Driscoll's a better option. But I like the offense. I think that it is an offense that showed in the second half of the season that they can move the football. That they could simplify it for Jalen Hurts a little bit, and they saw some growth, some movement there. The question is, can Jalen Hurts take that next step? Will he? I wasn't the biggest fan of Jalen Hurts coming out of college. I will say that last year I was pretty impressed for him being a rookie starter. I thought, was he? No, he wasn't a rookie starter. He was a second year. My bad. Second year starter. Well, not second year starter, but second year player. I was impressed because best believe you and me, after the first 6-7 weeks, I was calling for I was like, yo, hey, let's get a backup in here. They made the move on Minshew, and I was like, yo, get Minshew in there, dude. I want Minshew mania now. But we'll see with Hurts. We'll see. Let's go ahead, move on to the defense, coached by Jonathan Gannon. He was also a possible head coaching candidate this past season, or off season, I should say. But I thought he did good things with this defense, and I think we might see a few new wrinkles just based on who they pursued in free agency, what they did in the draft, and some early indications from OTAs. So a bit of this is speculation, but they were a 4-3, base 4-3 defense last year. And I think part of that can change. Maybe they want to mix it up and show a few more different fronts, maybe more odd fronts. They bring a guy like Hassan Reddick, who can't be he's that stand-up linebacker, but you're bringing him in to get after the quarterback. And they also bring guys like Kyron Johnson, who's this undersized edge player at Kansas, Ali Fayed out of Western Michigan, who was this stand-up edge player. And then they come in and bring the nose guard or the nose tackle of nose tackles in Jordan Davis. Keep in mind, Jonathan Hargrave, formerly Pittsburgh Steeler, he's familiar with odd man fronts. So maybe this is a team that wants to show a few different looks this season. So I think that's something to keep an eye on. When it came to their coverage last year, they heavily relied on zone. They were in cover 2, cover 3 a large part of the time. They like showing the cover 1 shell, putting guys in the box, as we saw Anthony Harris move into the box quite a bit last year, and they bring him back. So I like that. Marcus Epps, kind of love him or hate him. I thought he was solid last year. They have a few other options there at safety as well, with Tarrant from San Fran. They have was it Kayvon Wallace from Clemson they drafted a few years ago that has slot capabilities. So straight up, this defensive line and this secondary looks very good. The weak spot's going to be that linebacker spot. There's a lot of questions, but let's keep moving through the secondary because they bring in James Bradbury to start across from Darius Slay. That's a very incredible duo, but you got to beg the question, okay, Slay, are his best years behind him? I thought he was still playing solid last year. I think he'll be fine this year. They got a couple of youngsters behind him, behind those two guys that are going to be learning and maybe be ready for bigger roles, maybe this season or maybe even season after that. And Zach McPherson, who they drafted at Texas Tech, and then Tay Gowan, a guy I was very high on in the same draft. He was in the same draft as McPherson, but drafted by Arizona, and then they ended up trading him. So Tay Gowan was a cat that I really liked a lot. So I like the youth they have there. Are those guys ready to start? Probably not, but I'm very encouraged by them. They have Maddox, who looked wonderful in the slot last year. They're bringing in Kerry Vincent, who's just a very good track star. It's more of your dime type of corner. Looking at other depth they have, they bring in Jimmy Moreland, who again is probably more of a slot guy as well. Josh Jobe comes in here. as a UDFA. Dude, Reed Blankenship might be a very wonderful pickup. A guy that might end up making the team. Watch out for that. Mario Goodrich, also as a UDFA, a guy that a lot of people thought should have been drafted. So a couple of good pickups there. If there's injury, then yeah, you're gonna be kind of relying on, at least when it comes to corner, relying on guys that don't have a lot of experience. So there is a concern there. There isn't like a veteran guy, a veteran presence there at on the outside, I would say. So I say there is concern there. Looking at the defensive front, Brandon Graham, I know injured last year, kind of sucked, but the dude has been a baller throughout his whole career in Philly. And best year's probably behind him, but a guy that has been super consistent. Derek Barnett, don't know why they brought him back, but they did. I guess it kind of is what it is, but he's more of this base 4-3 guy anyway. Josh Sweat's been a very good rotation player, though they do have other options there on the edge. And Taron Jackson, I thought, looked relatively good when called upon in the small amount of snaps that he had. You could say the same thing about where do they have Patrick? Where are you at? Patrick. There you go. Patrick Johnson, who they grabbed out of Tulane, I thought shined quite a bit. Again, in a very small amount of snaps there. I think both those guys probably barely saw 100 snaps last season. Let me just confirm. Jackson saw almost like a little over 250, and then Johnson saw a little over 100. Okay, so close. I was close, but yeah, like I'm excited about guys like that there on the interior. You got a guy like Milton Williams who could play on the outside, who could play on the interior, and actually probably moving towards more of this mixed front where you're showing the defense or the offense a ton of different looks on the defensive line. That's a guy you can utilize in multiple roles. He's very versatile in that regard. And you still got Fletcher Cox there, man. And again, another guy whose best year is probably behind him, but he is still a very good player. Very good. Marlon Tuipulotu, a guy that didn't shine much last year. Very good run stuffer. Another guy that could play in in multiple fronts. They bring in Marvin Wilson, who just never really got off the ground. Noah Ellis as a UDFA, who's more to this nose tackle type. So he's kind of along the same lines as Hargrave, Davis, Rennell Wren out of I don't know where he was last year. Was he with this squad? But back in his ASU days, he was no stranger to playing multiple spots along the defensive line as that team went through multiple scheme changes. So maybe a guy to watch out for. But they got so much depth there, and we should really. I think we should really talk about the linebackers, guys like Hassan Reddick. You got Kyron Johnson, Patrick Johnson, Ali Fayed, who are, I think, going to be doing more. They're going to be getting after the passer more than they're going to be dropping into coverage. So I think we're going to see multiple, like, different looks from this defense, and that's why I'm so excited. And then you have TJ Edwards there. And let's talk about the linebacker position because it is light. It's light. They got TJ Edwards, who athletically nothing special, but solid. He has been literally probably the most solid linebacker for this squad over like these past few years, where they've literally had no one at linebacker. They bring in Kaiser White from the Chargers, who actually played pretty well last year. I thought that was a very good pickup. They drafted Nakobe Dean, who best believe this guy's going to be contended for playing time. Davion Taylor, I think, is a very nice sub-package guy. You could say the same thing about a guy like Sean Bradley, who's more of this undersized coverage linebacker. Jacoby Stevens is a former safety that moved to linebacker. So, like, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I would say the linebacker position looks better than it has in years past. But I guess we'll have to see. I think there are concerns, at least when it comes to depth in terms of veteran depth in the secondary, mainly at the corner position. But I think this defense is going to be good. It's going to be solid. And I think if we do see a few new wrinkles, it's going to be positive. It's going to be very positive. So without further ado, let's get to my projected starters. Remember, I do this based on snap count. I only care about who's going to be seeing the field a ton. I don't give a crap about your base defenses in the nicest way possible. So let's go ahead and start with the offense. I got Jalen Hurts. Best believe I think he's gonna get every chance to prove that he could be a franchise quarterback for this team. And then Miles Sanders, if he can stay healthy, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and then Quiz Watkins. I went with a slot guy instead of an extra tight end because even though they did play with more 12 and 13 personnel sets, they still ran out 11 personnel over 50% of the time. And then Dallas Goedert. There's really no discussion there. He's a very good tight end. And then the offensive line, Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson. We got Jason Kelsey. I got Cimelo there at right guard. I'm crossing my fingers, hoping Driscoll maybe gets an opportunity to play right guard. And then Lane Johnson looking at the defense. I got Brandon Graham, Hassan Reddick. This guy, they paid big money for a reason. This guy's going to see the field a good amount. Javon Hargraves, Fletcher Cox. Though we're going to see a very deep rotation there on the defensive line. And then a linebacker, TJ Edwards, Kazir White. Don't know exactly how much we'll see of Nakobe Dean, but I am excited by that. And then in the secondary, Darius Slade, James Bradbury, Avonte Maddox. Got Anthony Harris. I'm going to go with Marcus Epps. That's a guy that's been on this squad for a minute, and they trust him. So how do I think the Eagles will do? Well, I have them making the playoffs, but I have them making the playoffs at 8-9. And you might be like, you think we're going to be worse than we were last season? No, but I just don't trust your quarterback. Listen, some people are real high. They believe in Jalen Hurts. I'm just not that high on him. I think he can be wildly inaccurate at times. I think he doesn't do a great job of reading the field, and that dates back to his Oklahoma days. He was literally a two-read guy. This is how it went for him and Lincoln Riley. If your first read ain't open, run the football. That was it there at Oklahoma. So I don't have a lot of faith in him. Does that mean he's going to be god-awful? No, it doesn't. He could definitely soar far above my expectations. But again, these predictions are based on my expectations. So Eagles fans, hey, I got you making the playoffs at below 500. But lucky for you, the NFC, I honestly don't think there's a lot of good teams in the NFC like there is in the AFC. Let's go ahead and take a look at the schedule. And it really comes down to this. I have y'all almost 500 against losing teams, but 2-5 against winning teams. I got you a 4-2 in the division, but let's look at the game by game schedule. Got you winning two big games in the opener against Detroit and against Minnesota, and then a loss here against Washington. I believe I have y'all splitting with Washington. I think the two games I have y'all winning. Oh, please tell me it's Dallas, isn't it? It's against Dallas. I have y'all being Dallas twice this season, which is much better than how y'all did last season. So look, improvement. Yay. I mean, to be honest, like the games going into your bye, like it ain't. It's pretty easy schedule. Detroit's gonna be a much improved team. I'm not that high on Washington. Then you got Jacksonville, the Cardinals without DeAndre Hopkins, though I have y'all losing that game. So that could very well go the other way. So, okay, maybe you're 9-8. Cardinals were tough, man. I had them. Well, we'll get to the Cardinals soon in these deep dives, but I had them having a rough road ahead there in their first 6 games without D-Hop. And it's just weird because this is a team known for falling apart at the end of the season. So knowing that they're going to be without their best player at the beginning of the year, they were hard to gauge. But I have y'all going 4-2 into the bye. You open up with Pittsburgh. That's going to be a tough team. I think this Houston team is going to be much better than people give it credit for. Then having to face the Colts, the Titans, the Packers. Like this streak right here, man, you're facing teams that are looking to win their division. Like, because I know Washington fans will get mad if I don't call them a playoff team. I think they can be. I just don't think they're gonna. They could compete for their division, in all honesty, but kind of is what it is. Got y'all dropping one against the Giants. To be fair, I also have you meaning the Giants. So the NFC East seems to play each other very well. Winning against the Bears, and then like. It's really, this is where I see the tough, like this is the tough road ahead for y'all. Colts, Packers, Titans. Those are gonna be tough games, and it's gonna be there in Week 11 where these teams are vying for those divisions. Maybe not so much the Packers. That's not true. I don't want to take the steam. I don't want to take the wind out of the sails of the Vikings. But best believe Colts and Titans, that's going to be going down the stretch. But yeah, even despite I have y'all having a worse record, you might be like, we're so much better of a team than we were last year. And I do agree. But you can't act like the rest of the NFL is also not trying to get better. Like, you could go back. Teams like the Colts, Titans, better teams. Packers, I mean, they still got Aaron Rodgers. Like, Texans are like all you can't tell me, this is a better team than last year. You're gonna tell me we're gonna do worse when every team in the NFL was striving to get better for the most part. Not every team can outperform what they did last year. Sorry, not sorry. You still make the playoffs. Can we at least see eye to eye on that? Can we be happy about that? I have y'all grabbing that 7th seed for a second straight year. So, hey, man, don't blow it like y'all did against the Bucks. But that's it for the video. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I think the most fascinating thing when it came to the Eagles was what will they do defensively with their fronts. I think that's something I'm excited about, something that might not even come to fruition. Maybe that's not what they're doing, but I don't know. You let me know in the comment section below. That's it for the video. Until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.